It seems to me that increasingly we are having a situation where international politics and domestic politics are becoming very much more interconnected, at least at the ballot box, than they ever have been before. And perhaps that is what we saw play out in the by-election in Gorton and Denton, when, of course, the Green Party soared to victory, an astonishing insurgence, really, and that party now in polling, second to Reform, overtaking the Labour Party. Let's speak to Martin Abrams, who's the Green Party councillor. I mean, Martin, what do you think is behind your sudden skyrocketing to such a prominent position in national politics?
I mean, because the Green Party is standing up for working class people, and we're the only party to be doing that. We're talking about things like inequality, we're talking about things like the cost of living, and we're talking, you know, brutally honestly about why that is happening and the extraction of wealth by millionaires and billionaires, which is absolutely bringing this country to its knees. And, you know, that sort of clear messaging really resonates with people. And we're the only party that is doing that and not scapegoating, you know, the most vulnerable people in our society, you know, migrants and refugees, which, you know, Reform, Conservatives and the Labour Party are just doing on a daily basis.
In terms of clear messaging, in the Gorton and Denton by-election, your party put out various campaign materials and videos in foreign languages, in Urdu, for example, and they weren't necessarily about uplifting the working classes. A lot of that was about Gaza. You even had pictures of Narendra Modi. You were pandering, some might say, to an Islamist, as in political Islamic agenda for the migrant community there. That doesn't seem to be representing the intentions and the attitudes of all of the UK working class. Does that represent UK interests?
Well, I mean, I've kind of reject that question, to be honest, Alex.
Well, no, you can't reject the question. The question is, it was true. Your campaign materials in Gorton and Denton, in some instances, were put out in Urdu. There is video of this being about Gaza. Look, that is not a fabrication. We all saw that.
Alex, every single party tries to engage with the communities where they're trying to get their votes during elections. Every single party has an example of putting out literature, putting out party political broadcasts in different languages. Okay? The Green Party talks about genocide in Gaza because that's what people care about. People care about genocide. And it's not just in Muslim communities, it is across the board. We're talking about it consistently, and we're the only party to call a genocide a genocide. None of the other three parties that were contesting that election dare call it that, because they are just in cahoots with people like Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu that are taking us and dragging the UK into another illegal war into Iran. You know, the Green Party is absolutely standing up for things that people care about, and that's why we absolutely smashed that election, got a 4,000 majority, got Labour to come third in what was apparently a two-horse race, and we've now got our fifth MP in Parliament in Hannah Spencer, you know, a local plumber who speaks clearly and passionately about the things that clearly the voters in Gorton and Denton care about.
But you sailed to success, some would argue, or I think it's numerically, statistically evidential, off the back of a consolidated Muslim vote. There have been accusations of so-called family voting. Your deputy leader, Mohsen Ali, was present at what appears to be a pro-Iranian regime march the other day. Are you confident that your politics is not pandering to, frankly speaking, people who don't have the UK's interests at heart, who have sympathies with the terrorist regime in Iran?
I mean, it's utterly bizarre that you're coming out with this, Alex.
What's bizarre about what I've said?
It's bizarre because you're creating dog whistle arguments about why people voted for the Green Party. Our leader is a gay Jewish man. Okay, your dog whistle politics would not suggest that these hardline conservative Muslims would vote for a gay Jewish man. But you know what happened in Gorton and Denton is people from all communities came out and voted for a local plumber in Hannah Spencer that talk about things, very clearly about things that people care about.
Please can you answer my question? Because I'm the one saying to you, you're inverting this discussion now, and I just want to have a candid discussion with you. That is what we're doing here, which is your deputy leader, Mohsin Ali, attended what appears to be a pro-Iranian march.
It was a Stop the War coalition and a campaign for nuclear disarmament demonstration against an illegal war in Iran. Okay? That is not a demonstration supporting the regime in Iran in any way, shape or form.
So you would turn around and say that you would agree that the regime in Iran is a terrorist regime, poses a threat, not just to the United Kingdom, but frankly sponsoring terrorism around the world?
Listen, I'm not going to come on here and make plaudits about the Iranian regime.
Well, I'm asking you to, because as your party has courted the Muslim vote, right, and this is the hot topic of today, I think it's important. No, I'm asking the question. I think it's important. Can you please just pause a moment?
I answer them.
No, I'm asking this again. Let me break it down. Let me break it down very clearly. And I will wait for your answer, which is how an interview works. Okay.
Yeah, you've got to let me answer them, not interrupt me. Please don't interrupt.
I didn't. It is important that we understand from your party, you're second in the polls. We saw in Gorton and Denton that you have courted the Muslim vote, that numerically this got you over the line. Okay. What I am asking you is, if you want to play in national politics, and currently you're second in polling, we need to understand what your foreign policy positions are. And so I asked you a very direct and simple question, which is the Green Party in support of the position that Iran is a terrorist regime? Yes or no?
Listen, Iran is a despotic authoritarian regime that has been attacked illegally by what I would describe as another terrorist regime, Israel, supported by the US. And the UK is now getting dragged into that by Keir Starmer allowing the US to use our military bases to launch these horrific attacks on what is a sovereign nation in Iran. And, you know, you're kind of out of step with public opinion here on talkTV, Alex, because the vast majority of people in this country are completely against the war in Iran. You know, the fact that we could be dragged into another illegal war, which would make the Iraq war look like a walk in the park, a country of 93 million people teetering on the verge of becoming a failed state. Alex, let me ask you this. Where do you think millions of refugees will head if Iran becomes a failed state?
Which regime do you think has enabled much of the grey zone mass exodus which has been taking place over the past few years? And are you concerned that some of those who may be supporting you as a result of your rhetoric, as a result of some of your campaigning materials, are you concerned that some of them may not have the UK's interests at heart, instead might have as their primary concern their own community's issues at heart?
I mean, this is becoming a bit of a laughable
I don't think it's funny. I think it's scary. That's why I'm asking you.
No, it is terrifying. You are absolutely right. Because, Alex, I've heard you on this show beat the drum, anti-migrant rhetoric, anti-refugee rhetoric.
It's not anti-migrant and it's not anti-refugee. It is anti-open borders, but continue.
For someone who seems to hate refugees and migrants so much.
How dare you? How dare you? Listen, you don't get to come on my show and say that I'm anti-refugee. You are trying to deflect from answering a question when I'm asking you. You have a responsibility to be accountable to the general public. If you're polling second in national polls, we want to know what your relationship is when it comes to sections of the Muslim community who may have Islamist interests. That is what I'm asking you. That is what I want you to address. That, I think, is critically important. Don't try and turn this around against me. I was asking you whether you are confident that your supporters all have the UK's national interests at heart, or if there is a risk that they are prioritising, I'm talking about sectarian politics here, if they are prioritising their community's interests at heart, and if you are playing to this by putting out campaigning materials in foreign languages and invoking an emotive reaction to international wars.
I mean, okay. So in Gorton and Denton, Hannah Spencer, a white working class plumber who loves greyhounds, absolutely smashed Matt Goodwin and the Labour Party candidate with an absolutely thumping 4,000 majority. The Green Party is led by a gay Jewish man, and you are seemingly linking the fact that the Green Party is mobilising support of Islamists and this kind of dog whistle politics.
Are you mobilising support of Islamists?
I mean, absolutely not. We are mobilising the support of people that want to see a bit of hope and a bit of change in our politics, because the trust in British politicians at the moment is in the absolute gutter, mostly because they keep dragging us into illegal wars. They keep lying. They keep saying they're going to do one thing and then do another. What? And let me just finish on this, Alex, okay? Because Nigel Farage and people like Keir Starmer, they're coming out with, and Kemi Badenoch, they're constantly coming out with this rhetoric about refugees. Okay, and I've already mentioned, okay, for people that seemingly hate refugees in those politicians, okay, they seem to love creating them. And this illegal war in Iran could potentially create a refugee crisis in Europe like we have never seen before. And people like you and people like them do not have any answer to that at all. I want to see a world, and the Green Party wants to see a world that respects international law, that respects peace. And what we've got at the moment is people beating the drum for war, supporting, horrific countries like Israel, where their prime minister is wanted for war crimes in Gaza because of the genocide that is still ongoing over there. He's now desperately trying to launch a war against Iran to expand Israel into a greater Israel. And Donald Trump, who is trying to distract from the Epstein files, is fully supportive of them. And the consequences of this do not seem to be realised at all. And I'm absolutely proud to represent a party that stands up for international law and order, that stands up for peace, and does not want to be a part of waging illegal wars like we're seeing at the moment, energy prices are going to go through the roof, creating an inflation crisis again, like we've never seen before.
Indeed.
And it's absolutely crazy that people are supporting this.
Energy prices are going through the roof, and yet we can't access our own fossil fuels, so we could be at the sharp end of that. Why did you have Narendra Modi in your campaign material?
Because he's an authoritarian leader who wants to...
What's that got to do with UK politics?
Well, because Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, seems to be very comfortable with shaking the hands of these authoritarian leaders, like Benjamin Netanyahu, like Narendra Modi.
And you think that saying that and putting that in campaign material has nothing to do with dog whistling to an Islamist vote? Completely separate?
No, not at all.
How old are you, Martin?
It's something that political parties do all the time. They link political leaders to people of an authoritarian bent. Okay, Narendra Modi has committed horrific crimes against humanity. Benjamin Netanyahu is a wanted war criminal, and we take no shame in saying that the Prime Minister should not be shaking the hands that are dripping with the blood of millions of people.
How old are you, Martin?
That's a very personal question, Alex. I'm 45.
OK, I'd have thought you'd have graduated beyond Fisher-Price politics by now. Thank you ever so much for joining the programme. Philip, I find it astonishing when I listen to some of these arguments. They're saying, oh, we're dog whistling, oh, we're dangerous. And they're talking about blood dripping off hands, genocide, authoritarian leaders, putting out campaign materials in foreign languages. And they're saying, no, we're the peaceniks.
Yeah, he's using politics to stir emotion. And using a platform to stir emotion, and he keeps quoting international law. What international law have the Americans broken? What international law has anyone broken? It's the interpretation on what the Americans do in the attack into Iran is an American interpretation. So he is not in a position, and certainly not as someone who's representing a party that has just won a local election. The Gorton and Denton, they've got no say in what goes on in global politics whatsoever. He didn't quote what international law has been broken. He's quoting an opinion to stir up nothing but emotion.
In a constituency, in a city where we have seen an attack on a synagogue, where we have seen thwarted terrorist attacks.
Well, we know that the population that he was trying to target with all of these comments, with all of this emotion, was traditionally Labour supporting, but it was Labour supporting because they thought the Labour Party represented that element of their ethnicity in a way against the government, and therefore this is a protest vote against them. And
it's a dangerous protest vote.
It's a very dangerous protest vote. And if you look at their policies the whole way through, and you look at what they say and you look at what they do, everything contradicts itself across the board.
It's babyish, it's puerile, but unfortunately I think it's extremely dangerous. It's not even, I think it's willfully naive. Very